Kakadosh Boker Or Shavua Tov. Daf Yomi Masechet Batra Daf Kuf Samech Vav Amud Aleph 166a1. Says the Gemara. We were talking about ve'ema beprite. What does that mean? Maybe be'emet we said that if a person comes and he writes in a shtar dehav, which remember I told you that dehav and zahav, the dalet and zayin are interchangeable, meaning certain letters they're interchangeable, and therefore it says there's nothing less than a dinar of zahav. So he said maybe it was a piece of zahav, like a block of zahav. So he says when he wrote down matbea means he wrote down a coin. So once he wrote down a coin, so it's not like that. So he said, okay, fine, but maybe it's a coin, maybe it's like one of those pennies, meaning they made a penny out of zahav. So the Gemara answers, prate dedava lo avdin. Nobody makes a penny out of gold. Nobody will make a gold penny. They'll make a.
Is not necessarily a penny.
Prutot, right, or matbeot, which are
but
yes.
So sometimes you
no, but if you
note earlier.
Okay, so here it says klomar matbeot zahav ktanim midinar zahav, smaller than a dinar zahav. Doesn't have to be davka penny, but we're talking about a small coin, meaning any small coin. It could be a 5 cents or 10 cents, whatever you want to call it in the denomination in English, Richard. But it's the exact same concept. The concept is that we're talking about prutot. Prutot, right, are always small coins, not big coins. We're not talking about a dollar, right, which is out of gold. We're talking about the small coins. So answers the Gemara, nobody does that. Fine. Says the Braita, what happens if a person came and he said zahav bedinarin? So he says, if he says zahav bedinarin, en pachot mishne dinarin, kesef zahav. It's not going to be less than 2 dinarin of kesef zahav. Okay? Because since you went and you said zahav bedinarin, it has to be minimum of 2 dinarin. Okay? So says the Gemara, ve'ima dahava pricha betrei dinare dava kama. Maybe the kavanah of the shtar is to grutaot zahav that have a value of 2 dinare zahav. Yeah. So he comes and he says, which is basically like a small piece of a gold. So the Gemara says, Abaye says, yad balashtar ala tachtona. The one on the shtar is always going to be on the tachtona. What does that mean? The type of dinarim which is not mifurash on the shtar. So he can't do anything about it because he's got to, meaning like this. When you're going to come and you're going to write a document, you have to be very explicit. You cannot just write it down on the document. This dinar. No, write down how much. Write down what type. Write down the second that you come and you write down something which is general. So now that's it. You can't do anything really. Why? You've got the lower hand because even though you wrote it on a document, but if you weren't explicit in the document, so therefore you take the minimum. All right, that's the way. Okay, fine. So says the Gemara, we skip out the brackets. Remember, there's the brackets now. There's the round brackets, and then there's the parentheses, right, which is the square ones. So we skip out the round ones, and we do the square ones. So Yehachi, if so, Reishanami. So if you're always going to tell me that the Yad Balashtar is always going to be on the Tachtona, meaning he always has the lower hand, so therefore always he should have the lower hand. Why is it only in the Seifa that we come and we say, right, that the entire concept of the previous one, that it's Kilu, that he's got the lower hand, right? So answers the Gemara, Ravashi says, Reisha de katav dinarei. In the Reisha you wrote dinarei. Dinarei is mashma dinarei zahav. Seifa de katav dinarin. When you wrote dinarin, it's mashma dinarei kesef. Meaning nowadays we don't have anything made out of gold and silver other than the actual blocks of gold and silver. So it's not really applicable to nowadays. But in the olden days, they used to use both as commodities for cash. So therefore, when you used to come, and according to what you used to use the language, did you realize if I say dinarei, that means zahav. When I say dinarin, it means silver. So therefore, the fact that you wrote dinarei, it already means that it's gold. Okay? So you see, just like one little letter made the difference between gold and silver. Okay? So says the Gemara, how do you know that's such a thing? How do you know that when you say dinarei, it means gold, and when you say dinarin, it means silver? So he says the Tanya was learned on Mishran Kritut. A woman that has a doubt on her on 5 leidot. How does that happen exactly? She was ipila 5 pamim, meaning she had 5 miscarriages. And every single time it was a safek, whether she was mapil, something which was a vlad, to do a tumat lidan korban, or not. Or she's got safek chamesh zivot, right? Which is basically in the 5 months, every single time she kept on seeing for 3 days consecutively. So that's already a zava gdula. So therefore, the question is it a safek nida or safek zava, right? Because now she doesn't know what she is. Is she a zava? Is she a nida, right? So one more time. Obviously, a nida and a zava have to bring a korban. Okay, a nida and a zava have to bring a korban. Okay, but right here, what happens is that we're not sure which one. Okay, so it says over here, even if you're going to tell me that they're going to be obligated to the 5 groups of the birds, right? It's going to be one chatat in order to completely come and take her out, right? And according to that, it's just going to be one tefillah in the mikveh. Okay, but now what happens is that if a person is going to be yoledet kama leidot, there's going to be different korban for every single one. Meaning, the mikveh is enough one for everything. She only has to go to the mikveh once. She doesn't have to go to the mikveh 5 different times. Okay, but to do with not the mikveh, but to do with the concept of the korbanot on every single one, it's a separate one. So she has to bring one korban to permit her to have kochim, and she cannot do it on the other ones separately. Well, the reason why is because they permitted to come to bring a chatat off even once on a safek. So here on each one is a safek what she's supposed to do exactly, right? So therefore, right, she has a problem now, right? She can't just stand and come and bring kochim for no reason. So therefore, they come and they permit her to bring one chatat, right, in order that there shouldn't be a safek tuma olamit. But all the other chataot she does not bring. Okay, so now it comes out that she's not going to bring the olot also, because remember that you have to bring a pair. It's always a couple. It's always one pair. So now he comes and he says, right, like this. So what's going to happen in our case then? Right. So says the Gemara, the Mishnah over there, Mevia korban echad. She's going to bring. Everyone understood the case. One more time. A woman comes and she gave birth. She miscarried 5 times.
Either one.
Which one? Yeah, either one. But the concept is that we have a doubt whether the child is a viable child to be considered a leida or not. Now, there's a problem here. Remember that when a woman comes and she gives birth, she's already tumat leida, right? But then there's also a concept called tumat ziva. Zava is when a woman sees 3 days in a row, and she's during the zava days, which are in between from the nida to the nida. Remember, it was 7-11. Right? It's exactly 7-11. Remember 7-11. 7 days is the Nida. If a woman sees after those 7 days, within the 11 days, that's called a sickness. It's called a zava. She saw 1 day, it's called zava ktana. 2 days, zava ktana. 3 days, zava gdola. Zava gdola means that she's a big zava. And a big zava, she needs shivat nekim. No, she needs 7 clean days. Meaning the 7 clean days is only for zava gdola. Now the thing is that usually when a woman comes and she gives birth, you know she gave birth. And therefore, she's going to bring a korban, and that's it. But tuma of leida. Here, she has a doubt: was it a good leida or not a good leida? Was it a good birth or not?
Whether
a viable child or not. So therefore, since she's not sure, well, no, minimum is 40 days, right? But that's the concept, okay? So what happens now is she's got a doubt. So she has a safek on chamesh leidot and a safek on chamesh zivot, meaning was she a nida, like a leida, or zava? She's got a doubt, and there's 5 of them. So what do you do? Levin korban echad. You're going to bring one korban. Ve'ochelet bizvachim. She's going to be able to permit to eat korbanot afterwards. Meaning all she has to do is eat one korban. And then she doesn't have to bring 5. 1.
Why are you saying 5? How can a woman have 5 births?
Hapalot.
What does that mean?
So says the Mishnah over there that when you had a case of safek, meaning I have a doubt whether it's considered a leida or a ziva, so therefore what am I supposed to do? I can't just bring a whole bunch of korbanot on the doubts. Remember that many korbanot you can't. So what do? You only bring one korban. And one korban chatat, there's one zug, which is basically a chatat anula. And by doing so, that's going to permit her to eat korbanot. Remember that usually you're not allowed to eat a korban unless you're not allowed to eat the korbanot or any types of kodshim until you actually get your ta'ara. So this was the ta'ara, just by bringing one. Now says the Mishnah over there, Hayu aleh chamesh leidot vadaot. If you have 5 for sure, right? Definite. What was the word they used?
Definite.
Definite leidot. Or 5 definite, right? Zivot. Mevi'ah korban echad. Right? She's going to bring 1. Ve'ochelet bizvachim. And she's going to eat the zvachim. Ve'ashar olea chova. And the rest is going to be a chova. Meaning she still has, exactly, she owes it, but for sure she's bringing one. So there was a story. Maaseh. There was a story. The story is Ve'amdu kinim b'Yerushalayim b'dinei zahav, that the price of the kinim went up to a dinar zahav for every single zug. Remember that you always have to bring two birds, one for a chatat and one for an alah. So those are called kinim, because kinim is a zug. It's like a couple. One for one for another. Now what happens is it went up in price. It became a dinar zahav for one of these. That's a fortune.
Okay, let's say $1,000.
Yeah, it was a fortune. You know, a dinar zahav for two birds. So he comes and he says, "Amadash bag," says to Moshe Gamliel, "Hamaon azeh." He's swearing in the house of in the name of the Bet Hamikdash. Imalina laila ad shiu beninarin. He says until the price is going to go down to dinarin of kesef. So nichnas lebet din, right? Velimed. So he went into the bet din and he taught. Haisha shayu alea chamesh ledot vadaot or chamesh zivot vadaot mevia korban echad veochelet bizvachim venashar alea chova. If right now she had 5 leidot vadaot or 5 zivot vadaot, the definite ones, she's going to bring one korban, and she's going to eat in the korbanot. Ve'en hashar alea chova. The rest is not a chov. It's not a debt for her. Meaning, with one, she was yitzadeh chova. She fulfilled the obligation with one. So now what happened? All of a sudden, the prices went down. Right? Why? Because until now, if a person was only obligated to bring 5, right? All of a sudden now she's only obligated to bring 1. Remember, it's a question of supply and demand. When there's a lot of demand, so therefore the price just keeps on going up. All of a sudden, the demand dropped tremendously. Imagine how many people they were obligated 5 different korbanot. All of a sudden you tell them, no, with 1 year it's a chovah. I just said 5 for 1. The price just dropped dramatically. Yeah? 166b. V'amdu kinin bo bayom berivatayim. Because of that, they went down to such a price that they went to that the kinim was a rivei dinar kesef.
100 of the original.
Exactly. 100th of the original price means 1/4 of a dinar of kesef, not of gold. Before we were talking about that one of them, one couple, like one, not a couple, what did you say? One pair. Thank you. That's a better one. One pair was the price of a dinar zahav. Right? So imagine a golden here all of a sudden went down to 1/4 of a dinar of silver. 1/4 of one of silver. So that's what Richard said. How much? 1/100th. Yeah? It's a powerful deflation, right? Of value. Fine. Okay, next. 2 dots. 166b, the 2 dots. Katuv milmala. If it's written on the top 100 and then on the bottom it's written 200, or on the top it's written 200 and on the bottom it's written 100, we always go after the bottom. So why do we write bichlal the top one? Because if you didn't write if there's one letter missing of the bottom one, you could learn it from the top one, meaning you could compare, right, the top from the bottom. Tan Rabbanan, we learned in the Braita. Yilmad tachto min ha'elyon be'ot achat, aval lo b'shtei otiyot. In only one letter you could compare it, not in 2 letters. For example, Hanan mechanani. If it's written that the name of the guy was called Hanan and the Hanani, or Anan, Me'anani, right? That means there, why? Because it's only 1 letter difference, right? So he says, Maishna shtei otiyot delo. He says, why is it that I cannot leave? Meaning that the name was written different in the top and the bottom. We're not talking about anymore the amounts, we're talking about the name. So the question though is, right, what's the difference between 1 letter and 2 letters? So says the Gemara, Dilma mitra me'ashem ben arba otiyot. Maybe it's going to be lacking 2 different letters, which is going to be half the name. And therefore he comes and he says, and it's not derech for the sofer to skip out half a name. Meaning there does exist names of 4 letters, right? Of even 2 letters. Dan, Gad, even 2 letters, right? But even 3 letters. Asher, right? What else? Asher, no, there's a lot of them. Then you have 4 letters. What is 4 letters? Eitan, Raphael, right? The 4 letters, right? Mordechai. No, Mordechai is 5 letters. Mem, Resh, Dalet, Chaf, Yod. 5 letters, right? Mordechai, right? Raphael, right? What else? Mesod is 5, right? Yaakov is 4, right? So that means you have different ones. Yitzchak is 4, Abraham is 5, right? That means each one, right? You know, you've got right? Natan is 3, right? Rafael is 4, right? Asher is 3. You got the right. Nuta is 3. So meaning that there's a lot of different names that they have different. So he comes and he says, if you have a name which is 4 letters, and you're going to skip out 2 letters, that means you just skipped out half the name. It's not normal for the sofer to come and skip out a half a name. The sofer could skip out, a letter. Once it becomes 2 letters, and 2 letters is already half of a name, that's already going to be too much. So says the Gemara, Yihachiv so, Otachanami. Also one letter. Why? Like what I told you. Dinma mitra Hashem and Shteotiot. Maybe you have 2-letter names. Dan, Gad. You understand? You also have 2-letter names. Vavale Palga Dishma. And it's going to be a half a name also. Meaning, why are you coming and you're telling me the 2 letters you don't because you have a 4-letter name and that's already going to be half the name? Fine. So even 1 letter because you have a 2-letter name and it's going to be half the name. Ela rather, what's the reasoning of the 2 letters? Dilma mitrame shem ben shalosh otiyot vavele ruba dishma. Because it could be that you're going to have a name of 3 letters and then you have the majority. Meaning, even if we're not talking about 2 letters, but it's not that common, Dan, Gad, how many other ones do you have, which are, 2 letters? But even if we're talking about 3, which three, there are a lot of names with 3, right? I told you already a lot of them, right? Natan, Asher, right? There's David, there's a lot of them, which is actually 3, right? 3-letter names, right? So therefore, if you're going to skip out 2, that's already the majority of the name, not even a half the name. That's a majority. 2 out of 3. That's the majority of the name. So if that's why he came and he said it's not going to be good. So says Amar of Papa says Pshita li. It's obvious to me. Sefel milemala vekefel milemata. If it's written that somebody came and he gave a sefel on the top, the sefel is like a bucket, right? And a kefel milemata and a talit on the bottom. Hakol olech achar tachton. Everything goes after the bottom one. So by Rav Papa says, what happens kefel milemala v'sefel milemata? What's halacha? Mi chashina lezvuf? Are we going to suspect for a zvuf or not? Because at the end of the day, it was the sefel and kefel have the same 2 last letters, pei lamed. The only difference is the samech at the beginning or the kuf at the beginning. Now, what happens if you have a fly that came and ate out the bottom leg of the kuf? If you pay attention, look at the kuf, all you have to do is you have to fill in a little bit on the top left, and you cut out a little bit on the bottom left, and now you have a samech. Everyone, look at the word kefel. You see it, Richard?
Kefel?
Mordechai? Yeah. Everyone sees it. Look inside. Look at the letter kuf. The letter kuf, right? Look how it is. So if you just pick up the leg a little bit up, you already have a samech.
Yeah.
You understand? You already have a samech. So you're right. You need a zvuv. You need a fly to come and just chip out the bottom left leg, part of the bottom left leg, and then it looks like a samech. So it's a sefel instead of a kefel. Yeah? Okay? So mi chayshin al-zvuv or not? Olo? Answer the Gemara, teku. We don't have an answer. We don't know if we're going to suspect for a fly that came and started chipping away at the... Yeah? Okay. You have it. Okay. So it says now the Gemara, Hahu dava kativ be'shit me'azuze ve'zuza. It was a shtar that it was written 600 and a zuz. Okay. Now it didn't say which type of a coin it was. Okay. Now it says Shalcha Rav Shavya kamed Abaye. So Rav Shavya sent in front of Abaye and he said, "Shit mea ister ve'zuza." Does it mean 600 slaim in one zuz? Or maybe shit mea prite or 600 prutot and another zuz. Meaning, was it like 600, like let's say the dollars and then one zuz, or is it 600 prutot and then a zuz? So Elmaleh dal prite, take away the prutot. It's all written in the shtar. The asuche maskel lehu, right? When they're going to come and they're going to put a summary, umashvi leizuze, and you're going to be mitargem otam to zuzim. So Maya Marta, what did you say? Shitmia isre vezuza. He says Yad Balashar al-Tachtona. He always has the lower hand. So since he always has the lower hand, that's why you never actually come, and you're never going to say that it's such a high amount.